Good afternoon, 3 o'clock on May 8th, and I will call the Sacaponic Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So everybody have a chance to review the minutes of last month's meeting, which was largely a monologue on my part. Okay. Do I hear a motion to second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Minutes have been adopted. First item of business is old business. It's application 11 of 2025, and it's 518 Bridge Lane LLC. Is Susan Lago here or on?
She's on Zoom.
On Zoom. Okay.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you all?
I speak for myself. I'm feeling pretty good. Nice day. I think you'll feel good too today. This is, we've had a couple of variance applications for this property. You'll recall it's a very small property on Bridge Lane with a rebuilt house on a small lot. There was variance application for a very small swimming pool that required a side lot and originally a northerly rear lot setback. But the recent variance from last month was pertaining to a reduced number of parking spaces, 3, where 5 is the only required, and placed in the side yard. Because of the size of the lot and the lack of any real feasible alternative, I think I speak for the board in proposing a decision granting the variance as requested. And I'll make a motion to adopt that decision. Second in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Now, a more interesting matter, also old business. This is 182 Town Line Road, LLC's application for the property at that address. It's application 9 of 2025. When originally presented, it was a request of 13 variances, some of which were relatively small, some of which were significant. We perhaps prematurely closed the hearing on that without providing any feedback to the applicant as to what our thinking was. And upon further reflection, decided that it would be fairer and in everyone's interest to reopen the hearing so that the applicant could understand our thinking and perhaps make some adjustments in their application rather than having to reapply in the face of a turnout. Between last month's meeting and this meeting, we did receive revised plans which eliminated some of the variances, modified the plan, and perhaps I'll let Andy Hammer, who spoke for the applicant at the last meeting, address that, and then we can discuss.
Good afternoon, Board, Mr. Chairman. I just want to hand this to Roby.
The record show, I received the affidavits of posting of meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to express our appreciation for continuing this process. I think it's been a beneficial process. And I know the full members of the board were present last time, but we did have a kind of a sense of the board discussion regarding the prior application. And we worked constructively with that guidance to improve many aspects of our application. The revised plans were submitted on April 24th. I'm going to try and just kind of hit the high points for the board. There was a lot of concern raised about the numerosity of the variances, as the chairman pointed out. In the applicant's defense, this is a half-acre lot. It's on a 3-acre residential under the village code, and it's on a property property that will indeed predates the village itself. But there's no denying that some of the chairman's comments and the board's comments rang a bell of sorts. We really reevaluated our plan with a more careful consideration of the concerns. So not only were we mindful of the numerosity of the variances, we were trying to reduce the substantiality of some of these variances as well. One of the helpful comments from the board was that they didn't want us to throw our plans out and start new. Basically, the hope is that we could accommodate a lot of improvements with smaller changes to the existing plans that would result in a more acceptable balance consistent with the character of the community. The revised plans we submitted for consideration make some significant improvements over the prior proposed application, and also over the existing improvements that legally predate on this property. I hope you'll agree. For one, we have eliminated any request for pyramid variances, both for the residents and for accessory structures. This wasn't a small ask, but we shifted the house, changed the roof lines, lowered things, and basically redesigned it to better respect this important metric. We have also proposed the existing residence 60 feet from the front yard setback. That improves our setback from the existing house by nearly 25.5 feet. In terms of volume, we're reducing the volume of the structure within the front yard setback from the existing improvements, which is 16,616 cubic feet, to our proposed 11,582 square feet. But it's much more than a volume-driven analysis. We're retreating the entire facade to this proposed 60-foot setback line. So the actual improvements from a streetscape will be much more dramatic improvement than the existing improvements, as well as, certainly from our prior submission. We also moved these structures, including the pool house and the house, off the side yard setback. This helped eliminate some of the pyramid variances, and also improved our setback to 8 feet for the accessory structure from the original 5.4. If you remember, on this property, there's an existing garage that's situated 5.4 feet from the side yard. That's what everything was designed around previously. The principal structure, essentially a windowless bedroom on this side of the house, was shifted to a point 10 feet off the property line and is now compliant with the pyramid as well. You can see other improvements throughout the project. We pushed the hot tub north to 17.8 feet from the side yard. We improved the sunken areaway on the front of the house. This is the area that provides light and air to the basement, from 55 feet to 62 feet from the front yard setback. The pool correspondingly was reduced in size to accommodate some of the other moving parts. It was originally proposed at 20 by 50. It is now an 18 by 43 square foot, 18 by 43 foot long, basically a more standard sized pool. One very significant to this change, or to the project, was removing gated access entirely. It seemed like the sense of the board was that the gate was both incompatible with their vision of the village, and also did create issues in terms of access and parking and circulation. By removing this, we were able to significantly improve the circulation. We can easily accommodate 4 cars with room to turn around, as well as in addition to the car that's parked in the garage space on the house. This was a major change that will require a little more vigilance from the owners with respect to their children, but it did help the overall appearance in a manner consistent with your comments. We did explore some of the other accessory structures, such as moving the proposed generator. It was suggested we move it all on the other side. I don't think there were strong objections. Everybody seemed to acknowledge that it was in a decent place. We actually think it's probably the best location we could choose. Moving it adjacent to the pool equipment, which proved to be some other metrics that we were dealing with. One aspect that's sort of intractable on this property is the geothermal well locations in the rear of the property. Most of these changes were made while respecting the viability of the geothermal well and its required setbacks. There are very stringent regulations that go along with those. That's an important concern both for energy efficiency, noise generation, and other things that affect the neighborhood. I think this applicant really listened to the board. We shifted the improvements to the north as suggested, retreated from the road, eliminated the gates, eliminated pyramid variances. We really spent a lot of time figuring how to do this without starting anew with our plans. And I think the result of these compromises works on the property, and certainly hopefully you'll agree. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I do have the architect here with me. Stuart is here. I have Shannon. I have the owners. And I also have Mr. Bregman, who is in town, but I think he really wanted to just critique me today. But I can't pretend to understand all the minutiae. There were a lot of moving parts on this, but if there's any question I can't answer, I'm sure they can.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any comments? No? I appreciate your articulation of the changes as well as the changes. I think it demonstrates careful listening to the comments from last meeting and certainly addressing most of them, certainly the most significant ones. Understanding again where we were coming from, that this was a clean slate application, not really a renovation of the existing house. And we did make an effort in our comments to try to minimize the disruption to the applicant's desired residence, design of the house. The resiting of it, relatively small amount, has made a big difference. Both moving it further back from the road and further to the north eliminated many of the variances that we considered undesirable. So I'm pleased that we had the opportunity to give you the opportunity to address the concerns, and we did so effectively. That being said, anybody else have any comments? Yeah, Richard.
How many variances is it totally?
Okay, so we eliminated the gate, eliminated
Pyramid.
eliminated the pyramids, reduced the variance request for the southerly side lot requirement, reduced the size of the variance or increased the setback in the front yard. I don't know what the count is at this point on the number of variances.
Parking situation is.
Well, the parking certainly was improved. Yeah. Okay, so there were 13 variances. The parking,
Remains.
it remains, but it's a better configuration. That's still parking in the front yard, which is pretty typical in that area. The elimination of the gate in its entirety,
It's a front yard variance, all the pyramids.
and both pyramids were eliminated. The front yard setback was reduced. The side yard setback was reduced. The sunken accessory was also reduced,
Yes.
but still there. The north patio, I don't know, was that changed? You didn't mention
It
it.
increased. We were able to move it a little bit farther away from the side yard setback, but it still remains a variance based on the non-conforming lot width.
I don't know that it was changed actually, but. All right, but it's inoffensive. The pool house, setback less than the main dwelling, but it is an accessory structure, and it is a reduced variance than had previously been requested. The hot tub, again, moved further away from the side lot. The pool equipment was not objectionable previously, and the generator, even though it's still required for variance, it's not objectionable. So I will entertain a
So,
motion.
I have a couple more
Yeah,
questions.
go ahead.
On the geothermal, you said something about side yard setbacks. What are they?
From the geothermal to any structure or
To the structure, to the property line.
No, you have, basically what I see, you have your whole house designed on the east side of the property. And you got all on the west side of the property, you got a geothermal field.
Yes.
Now that creates you to get a variance for all these different things, because the house is too wide where it should have been longer. You're leaving if it was pushed back, it would be a lot less
I
variance
do
and
think-
sideline setbacks.
I do think having a geothermal field, it's not the car driving the horse at the end of the day. It's certainly a desirable thing for any homeowner to pursue. But yes, it does have its
There's
own.
disagreement with that.
Yeah, it has its own requirements and setbacks on the.
I'm just saying that because you keep bringing up geothermal well field, stipulating that this is why the house is to the east, the pool is moved over. And I just feel as a board member that if you got rid of the geothermal, you could have got rid of a lot of the variances that you were requiring and have a bigger setback from the side yards instead of asking for all these variances. You know, you're creating a house on a half-acre lot. I think it's half-acre, right?
Yeah.
Approximately, yes.
You're creating a house that should be 3 acres, put it on a half-acre lot, and you're maxing out your square footage, you know? That's the way I see it.
Well, I think there are a lot of positives of geothermal that, you know.
I really disagree with that. I think it's very costly, a lot to maintain, inefficient, and the cost that you to install the amount of electric or propane or fuel oil you could buy for $150,000. That's a lot of years of use, you know? And everybody looks at it as a green thing. I don't think it's a green thing.
All right, well, Richard,
That's my take.
taking note of your comments with respect to the geothermal well, but relating it to.
But it reflects the
Yeah, no,
use of the
I'm
property.
saying,
you know?
but relating
You're saying-
relating it to our jurisdiction,
Right.
which is, in your view, you think that the geothermal well has authored a number of the variance requests.
Right.
But looking at the variance requests themselves, and apart from what the applicant desired with respect to the development of their property, the individual variances are not out of line with the types of variances and the magnitude of variances which have typically been granted for homes on Town Line Road, where the lots are small, parking in the front yard, reduced side yard setbacks, and some of the others. So
Yeah, I understand.
I think the
I
point
see
that
your point, but the point is that if you buy a small lot, you should conform to what the lot is, not
we made that
what the
point.
village is.
We made that point.
Permits.
We made that point last time, particularly in emphasizing that it is a clean slate development.
Yes.
And we tend to be more tolerant of variance requests where they are renovations or modifications to existing structures which are non-conforming. My point last month was if this were truly a clean slate coming in without there having been extensive designs, this house, then maybe I would have pressed harder for a different configuration of the house. But in a balancing of the equities and evaluating the individual variance requests and the effect that they will have on neighborhood, environment, feasible alternatives, I take responsibility for essentially pressing for a reciting of a substantially similar structure rather than a redesign of the structure itself. So I can appreciate that we may have a difference of opinion as to what should be done given the circumstances we were faced with last month. But I take your point and value it as to what should be done by people who are coming to develop properties before getting to the Zoning Board of Appeals requesting 13 variances.
Right.
And that would be the structures should be designed to fit the site. And this perhaps was not ideally done in that manner. But again, at this point, I believe we've articulated the objections to the original plan. They have done a pretty good job of substantially accommodating those. And I'd be in favor of granting the variances as so modified. So,
I have a question.
go ahead.
On the second page, is the first photograph, is that the street view? With that, if you're.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, that's the street.
That's the street view.
I mean, again, there's, the massing of the house, again, it does conform to FAR requirements. They did a substantial amount of their habitable space is below grade, where it doesn't count as FAR, which gives them great utility of the property without requiring variances. And part of the reason that we found the side lot setbacks and the pyramid requests somewhat offensive was because the reconfiguration of the house in a more vertical manner and the massing of the house made it appear that a side yard setback that may have been suitable for a low beach cottage seemed to be rather cramped for a house of that kind of size. So anyway, I don't want to revisit all of our comments from last month. And I entertain any other comments from anybody else on the board or the applicant or your representatives, anybody else? Okay, so I don't want to close the meeting and then hear somebody say, oh, by the way, so this is your last shot. Anybody have any comments before?
I think my only comment is kind of between what Richie and you are saying is that a lot of reworking took place for, improved based on the fact that there were so many variances.
Mhm.
But I think as a zoning board, the mass of a house on a small property, I just think is something that we need to pay a lot of attention to. And I feel strongly about that. And I do agree there's certain cutbacks here that made the house, trying to conform. But I always think there are choices. And so I just hope that I don't like everything becoming a precedent that forces us to constantly expand the house size on a lot size.
And so to
And
your
all the parking's in
Yeah.
the front yard.
yeah, well, to your point,
A lot of the
Marilyn,
house too.
to your point, as I understand, what you're saying is, yes, we have a significant improvement from what was originally presented, but that shouldn't have been presented to begin with.
Yes, that's what I would say, and I think that Ms. Yago's house kind of stands in a stark contrast
Mhm.
for somebody
Mhm.
dealing with a tiny house,
Mhm.
seeming to understand the size of their lots and therefore the constraints therein based on, I also know that this road itself has been increasing, it is so built out, it is not even a shadow of its former self. Maybe it doesn't need to be. I'm just pointing out that, when a house runs sort of edge to edge, they loom. That said, I never go down Town Line Road anymore, so.
Well, okay, I agree. It obviously has changed. We made that point as well. The house to the north is a big house. All the new houses that are being built, when people are paying that kind of money for that piece of land at that location, they feel compelled to max out.
Which is where something needs to give there.
Well, okay, but again,
But not necessarily, I'm cool.
yeah, all right. We're trying to balance equities and taking into account those factors which justify variances. I think we have addressed the impact on the neighborhood, the impact on the environment, what are feasible alternatives. There were feasible alternatives, and they've adopted some of those. I'm not trying to be an advocate for this particular development, and I value your input in terms of, and I think it's in the record, if anybody bothers to read our decisions. They often cite them, they cherry pick them to pick the best parts for themselves. But I think we have been pretty consistent in trying to be fair and balancing the equities, but making our points well known that we believe in the integrity of the code and the nature of the village, and an effort to prevent, I think there were small, creeping, numerous variations from gradually changing the neighborhood to where it becomes irretrievable. All right, so.
If I could add one thing,
Yeah.
yes, this is a blank slate development in some respects, but this is an improved parcel that has an existing residence that is very close to the front yard. So the expectation of somebody looking at the house is, hey, this is what's here now. We are significantly improving that in accordance with the village code. But it's, I think it's not an unreasonable expectation that the house that currently exists, we're gonna be 25 and a half feet farther back than that. That was acceptable for a very long time. So, I think you have to balance that, and part of the equity too is that, hey, the variance standards are a benefit to the applicant, detriment to the character of the community. Under your code, we're making significant improvements in the character of the community in accordance with your code.
I have one comment,
If you're gonna speak, please come up.
Identify yourself.
Yeah, or just a question, actually. Elizabeth Appellis, 118 Fairfield Pond Lane.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Yep, Appellis, APELLIS. Under the assumption that the fact that the property is on closer to the sides, and under the assumption that there are people on those sides, have they been contacted, and are they aware that it's gonna be?
The property owner to the south, Michael Schultz,
Yeah.
has affirmatively supported the application even before it was modified to increase the setback from his side lot. And I believe there were no comments received from the property to the north.
Just a comment, you asked, I understand it's a small house now, but the new house is gonna be massive compared to what it is now. It's the point, and closer to the street, and all the parking's there, additional park. So it's larger.
I mean,
I think it would be different. It would be difficult to take the existing improvements, say, oh, we're gonna expand this in accordance with the village code. I think that would be perhaps not a fruitful endeavor rather than a redevelopment in this instance.
this section of Town Line Road is probably the most difficult to deal with. It's already changed dramatically from the beach community that it was designed to be, that it has been for years. Every new property that's developed there pushes the limits in terms of size. We, at least I personally acknowledge that times have changed, people's household needs have changed. The houses have changed from perhaps only being used during the summer to being year-round residences. And I think that we need to accommodate that to a degree, but, and that's why we've gone through this dialogue and pushed back on certain things, and why I am personally in favor of granting this application with the modifications.
But it's reasonable. It's not compared to what's in the neighborhood.
In size, it comports with the zoning code. It's within the FAR.
Yeah.
I mean, and they actually used a device that we built into the code, which was to allow a much larger FAR that is not in your face. And that was primarily designed for the farm fields to keep from having McMansions filling up the open spaces of Sagaponack. But and it was also the belief of real estate brokers, who I don't necessarily always agree with, that constricting the sizes of houses in Sagaponack, where the land values are so high, would adversely affect the value of the properties and the community itself. So, as I say, I think it's a balancing act. I think that, again, I don't want to overstate it. I think that this represents a fair compromise of providing a homeowner with, which is going to be used for full time, if I understand it. For full time occupancy, or is it only summer?
Jamie Cohen, homeowner, and Schwartz. We are here year round. We don't live here year round, but we are here every other weekend. Ken has an older son, so he's with us every other weekend, so we're here every other weekend. And every single holiday and all summer. And that's why we want the evergreen tree and our gardens look nice year round.
All right, so it's not a primary residence that you're here full time, but it's a year-round residence.
It may be our primary residence one year. His son is 16, he's going to college in 2 years, and that's when we can make our decision if we're gonna do full-time or not. So it's
When
It's
you calculate what New York City income taxes are, that would be available if you live full time. Primarily in Sagaponic, which my accountant has recommended to me as well, but I don't feel that I could qualify for that. Okay. Again, last call, comments, pros, cons, comments, or I will entertain a motion.
I think there were significant changes made and best efforts here. I mean, without removing the geothermal, I don't see how they're gonna be able to get everything else in.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, just
Oh, sorry.
your comment about the geothermal, and Richie mentioned the geothermal too, sort of rings a bell in my mind from the old days when Anthony Tohill was our counsel and used to be very fond of citing Brownlee, Baker versus Brownlee, where an applicant wanted to put a patio between his house and the bay. And the zoning board said, oh, well, you wouldn't need a variance if you put it in front of your house. He said, but I don't want a patio in front of my house. I want it in the back where it faces the bay. And that basically that position is sustained by the courts. So these people would like to have a geothermal well, and we're not telling them whether they can have or they can't have the geothermal well. The comment that was made went to the point that by getting the geothermal well that you want, you may need to sacrifice something else that thereby requires a variance. Is that a fair statement? Okay, so point made, anybody who wants to put in a geothermal well should consider that they may have to sacrifice something else on their site in a constrained property like this.
To be clear though, the geothermal well is not visible below.
No, it's not a question of its visibility, it's just a
Yes.
question of its existence
Yes.
coerces the configuration of the other main dwelling and accessories on the property that brought you here for 13 variances to some extent, as did a 50-foot long swimming pool, which sort of pushed it. And I note that that has been reduced, which enabled you to move the house further back. Okay, I don't want to belabor it. I think we've had a pretty full discussion. So I will entertain a motion to close the hearing on the application for 182 Town Line Road.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All in favor? I will then, I guess I will refrain from adopting a decision that is not yet before us, but we will instruct council to prepare a decision in support of the requested variances as modified, and we can adopt that decision, assuming everyone still agrees with it, having read it at our next meeting in June. Okay? So, I think that's it. If there's no further business before the meeting. Okay, I understand that we may have several new applications next month. Four applications, we're back to the old days. Thank you very much, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned. You made me so much more fun. I told not to.
If you're using this, the geothermal.
Yeah. But it is, but based on what that,
They put it in their vehicles.
yeah, I think all those things have happened, but I think that going back to what we were saying about these kinds of things, and making it one choice on a lot, it also.